Hello, welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick n Pay, and welcome to a rather special morning. As you can see, I'm not in my cellar. I'm in fact in my garden, nice and socially distanced, because I have a guest with me. A guest, though, you might not recognise if you are from the wine industry and wine alone. If, however, you're from the world of cycling, then you've probably got goosebumps already, because he's one of the rock stars of the world of cycling, a great rider during his days, and you might not remember them, but your parents might. But now somebody who's running one of the most exciting, one of the coolest cycling brands on the planet. And so a very warm welcome to Doug Ryder from Team, I'm not actually sure what, because it keeps changing. What are we at the moment, Doug Ryder?
Oh, thanks, Dan. No, Team Qhubeka ASOS. So it's yeah, we've moved away from NTT and Dimension Data and now riding for our charity. So purpose-led, performance-based team racing the Tour de France and races around the world. So excited to continue in 2021 as Team Qhubeka.
And I love that. And before we get into the wine, which is obviously far more important than cycling, but we must talk about riding a little. The fact that you have this charity, this platform in Qhubeka that you support, every rider of yours I've spoken to talks about how much motivation it gives them to ride, knowing that it's not just for the race, it's not just the finish line, it's the fact that they're helping out Qhubeka. Tell us a little bit about how that came about, what Qhubeka is and why it's so important to you.
Yeah, I mean, Qhubeka, we've been with them for 10 years now as a team that embraces it and races to mobilize people on bicycles in communities and to give them hope and opportunity. I mean, even now during 2020 and in the pandemic, we put teenagers on bicycles so that they could take food to the elderly. So we called those kids heroes on bikes. And so they're just, you know, it's just about an upliftment and giving people hope through bicycles, which is amazing. So Qhubeka is a Zulu word. It means to move forward, to carry on, to progress. So, you know, together we're doing great things. And I think our team racing around the world is using its success and its global exposure to raise awareness and funds to, you know, to something so significant, using our sport to do good. So it's quite exciting.
I love that, and it sits within the framework of a greater South African, a greater African story. And I still remember, you and I have laughed over this many times, this daft idea you had that you could somehow start a Tour de France team from your back garden in South Africa. A decade later, you've not only done it, but you've caught the imagination of the entire world. And progression has been a key part of that. We've talked about the change in names. You've now got the new name for 2021. You also have a new partner, and that's why we're chatting to you today. I've got a bottle of Lavenier with us here, and that's not accidental, because this is a very important fuel for your team for 2021.
Yes, absolutely. We love to celebrate successes, and it's nice to, you know, to have something local as part of our team. Lavenier is a means to move forward, so, you know, I think our team is moving forwards into 2021 as Team Qhubeka, which is pretty cool, and having a partner like them on board to celebrate our successes and to tell stories and to, yeah, just to, I guess, connect with each other is a pretty cool thing. And cyclists do like wine, they do like coffee as well, but they do love wine, and they do love celebrating successes, and they love a glass of wine to relax in the evenings before going to bed after a hard day. So, and so do our staff. So.
I'm sure they do. That preempts the question I was going to ask. We have this vision of cyclists. You all look like you're in desperate need of a meal. We can barely see you behind your bicycles. And this elite athlete image I have suggests a very strict diet and being very careful about everything. If you've just finished a dastardly day of climbing on the Tour de France, are there cyclists who'll have a glass of wine with dinner?
They will, absolutely. I think after a long day, just to relax and to connect with, you know, I mean, wine is such a social drink, and you tell stories and you connect with each other, and it relaxes you, and it means that your day is at the end. So I think it's there's many things in it, and I think our riders, you know, they don't go ballistic, but they, you know, having a glass of wine at dinner is something that they really enjoy, and it's something that we don't mind. Some teams are against it, but of course everything in moderation. And I think for us as a team, you know, we don't mind if our riders do sample a glass. And then, of course, when we win the MCC and the champagne and, you know, the sparkling wine is, you know, we sabrage it, we do crazy things when we celebrate and bring the staff and all the riders together after winning a stage. You know, that's really special. So that's something that we abuse and use a lot, you know, during races when we win.
And rightfully so. And in fact, I remember I've had many great sporting moments as a spectator around the world. As good as any of them have been at your invitation a few years ago,
Yes.
being on the Champs-Élysées for the last day of the Tour de France. And we had a wonderful party on a boat that night. It was a great celebration. And it wasn't just great seeing everybody celebrate and getting to the end of this momentous tribute to cycling, but the fact that there seemed to be such a close-knit group amongst your team, and that you weren't just teammates or boss and riders. There was a real sense of friendship to the group.
Yeah, our culture is amazing in our team, and because I think we, it's not about just looking good in Lycra, it's about what we can do as a team together. And if you are united and have a great strategy and work so hard to prepare for a Tour de France, and then at the end, it is a coming together with your family, friends, partners, and it's a celebration time, because the sacrifices are massive in sport, and and so it's nice to celebrate together. But the culture in the team is incredible in terms of the unity that we have, and it isn't a boss rider culture. It is this is not my team, this is our team kind of culture, and every individual success can be somebody else's success. So I think that just brings us together.
And it also speaks to your personal ethos, which I've discovered over the years. We first got to know each other on the Cape Epic, which is why I'm wearing my very favourite, if slightly worn, Richard Scott artist-designed Cape Epic T-shirt. And we had a couple of glasses of wine on the Epic, and we have ever since. But we haven't had a glass of L'Avenir before, so I'm going to pour some for you. And I've chosen this one for two reasons. One being because it was one of the few bottles of L'Avenir I actually had in my cellar during lockdown. But the other, it combines quite nicely. I certainly think of rosé as being a drink that is, it epitomises France in summer. You think of being down on the coast and enjoying a glass of rosé. But it's rosé made from Pinotage, which is the quintessential South African grape. So it brings the two of those together, and it brings us together. So cheers, Doug.
Cheers. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
There you go. Have a taste. Let me know what you think.
Oh, it's lovely. We drank a few of these when L'Avenir came to see us at the Tour de France last year, so it was a real lot of fun, and our riders were sampling as well, so it was quite nice. But we sadly didn't win a stage, so we didn't get to sample the MCC, but we did sabrage one or two things and had some lessons on it, so that was quite nice.
I particularly love this because I think Pinotage has a mixed following. There are those who aren't quite so fond of it, others who are, and they're very different styles of Pinotage. But what we're doing with rosé Pinotage, I think in South Africa, is a really good use of the grape and bringing it out in a completely new way. And I'm thoroughly enjoying this. And I'm enjoying it because I'm enjoying it with a friend and sharing some good memories. And to me, that sits at the heart of wine. Take us back, the Doug Ryder wine story, very successful as a professional cyclist, then into the journey as team owner. Are there a few moments, a few races, a few experiences that you remember through the prism of wine where you celebrated or just had a really good time?
No, there were lots of times. I think when we went to our first Tour de France in 2015 and winning on Nelson Mandela's birthday on Mandela Day, it was kind of crazy. That was our first Tour de France. And we drank a lot that tour because we celebrated so many successes, just by top 10s and top 5s, because we celebrated every little victory that we, not only coming first, but when we did significant things, and so it just brought together a unity of people and that family connection, I guess, in a team, staff and riders together. So those were beautiful moments. When Mark Cavendish won and wore the yellow jersey in the Tour de France in 2016, and we won 5 stages in 7 days. Those were amazing days as well, where we sampled a lot and connected a lot together with amazing success. But I think even now at the end of last year, when we finally rescued our team and could call it this purpose-led team and not a return on ego team, but a return on impact, that was also some special moments that we've that you can celebrate with friends and people that have supported you along the way. But yeah, there's been many successes, but the thing is, the nice thing about successes is that they are few and far between, I think, in sport, and that means that when they are there, they are so much more special. And the people that you're with, it's amazing. And then, of course, the stories that you can create and tell from that are beautiful. So there's some real good memories.
Your story is so quintessentially African. Yes, you've got a lot of riders from around the world, but be it Qhubeka, be it your own origins, be it the first backers in Dimension Data, the origin story is very much here in South Africa. How much then does it give you a sense of pride when you're celebrating a victory and you can bring out a bottle of L'avenir? You've got friends from around the cycling world and you introduce them to a great South African wine.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
No, it's amazing when you take a dream and turn a dream into a plan and into a strategy, and then you succeed. I think it's, when you're just watching the Rugby World Cup and you watch what Rassie and the guys were saying around, that whole build-up and what happened, and you turn a dream and you turn something that is, that is meant to be, I guess, into reality is really, really special. So, that's it's a massive achievement, I think, through that. And not everybody realizes their dreams or make things, can make significant things happen. And so it just gives more people hope and opens their eyes up to the possibility of, never ever think that it might not happen, because it can if you work really hard and connect with great people. So, yeah.
I think there's also a nice synergy in that people certainly at best underestimated you, at worst gave you absolutely zero chance of pulling this off.
Yeah.
Similarly, there are a lot of people who, maybe just because they haven't experienced it before, don't know about South African wine. If they've heard it, don't believe it could possibly be any good. And just like you opened the world's eyes through your cycling, so South African wine tends to do the same around the world.
Absolutely. And once people taste it and feel it and see it and recognize the brands and the flag and the country that is on the bottle, it's beautiful. I mean, we've seen wines now that we've been racing 6 years in Europe, and in this current partnership and in our previous partnerships, that as you see them more often and around, you just head over there and grab a bottle of South African wine, anywhere in the world. And I think a team like ours that's racing all over, does showcase what South Africa's potential is, and in people and in what we produce. So I think that's pretty amazing, and we look forward to another successful year with L'Avenir.
It does have some competition, particularly when Tour de France, because the French have been known to make some decent wine on occasion. How cool has that been for you, your personal interest in food and wine, getting to travel the world, but in particular spending that time in France, and when you're not drinking proudly South African wine, discovering French food and wine, and French wine in particular?
Yeah, I mean, that's the most beautiful thing about traveling, is sampling the local dishes and local places. The nice thing about Europe is that there's not many franchises around. So you go to these quaint restaurants owned by the mother and the father and the family, and they know that their existence is based on the quality of what they produce and how local relevance is important, and the stories that they can tell around that. So I think, if you open your eyes to it and when you're traveling and you experience that, it's the most amazing thing, and you do get to know and sample many different things, and that's the beautiful thing about traveling. So hopefully in 2021, we'll be able to travel more and people will be able to experience more of that, because, that industry has really taken a knock. But, we've been very fortunate in our travels that we've been able to do many different things. And we even get our chef now that cooks for our team to make sure that when we're in that area and in a region that we, cook things from the region and to keep it relevant, keep it interesting, and, and get our riders to also understand where they are, because they also, from one hotel room to another hotel room, they feel almost as if they could be anywhere, but to try and make it. And our chef always tells a story every night around where he got the product, what it means to be in this region, and I think that gives a bit of education to some of the younger and older riders and makes it a bit more meaningful.
That's brilliant. It's injecting a bit of life into what can be such a robotic world of professional sports.
No, exactly. And I think then they know exactly where they are, and I think that's really special, because there's certain regions where only things happen there, and if the chef then understands it, he shows an interest in what he's doing, so that comes to the passion point, and then we enrich our riders and the staff, which is important, because they spend time away from home. They might as well get a great experience out of it and understand where they are.
I think that's a fabulous, fabulous philosophy, and it'll certainly add to their experience. Not as much, though, knowing that they're all professional sportsmen, as succeeding on the bike will be, because that is the ultimate aim, as good as the food and wine alongside might be.
Exactly.
We're going into 2021. It's still a year of uncertainty. We're not entirely sure how it's going to play out, exactly what's going to happen. But in as ideal a world as we can hope for, what represents success for Team Qhubeka in 2021? What are you raising a glass for?
No, we want to do significant things this year. It's going to be an incredible year, another difficult year, I think, with lots of races congesting on each other. So it takes a lot of commitment from everybody, but we want to have a really good Tour de France. We've had an up and down last 2 Tour de Frances, and after incredible success in the beginning. So the Tour de France is really important for us. We'd love to go top 5. We have Fabio Aru, a new rider in our team that's won the Tour of Spain before, so that's a big focus for us. And then the classics, Milan-San Remo, a race we won in 2013. So we want to kind of, you know, go back to winning some big events, big classics, and then, you know, a top 5 in the Tour de France with some stage wins would be a successful year, should it happen in July. Hopefully it happens at the same dates as planned, because then it's nice and warm and European summer, and people will hopefully be out, and you know, we can connect with fans along the road. That'll be great. And then a major success will be if we can raise significant funding and global support for Qhubeka and get some big corporates, global corporates behind it, and to invest in mobilizing people on bikes in South Africa to give them just more access and hope. So we really focused on that, because South Africa is struggling, and I think you know, our global team could potentially do something significant there too. So that's a big focus.
You're a team powered by good karma, which I think speaks to much of your success. Also a team powered in 2021 by some lovely, lovely wine. Is there truth in the fairly widespread rumours that most of your big name cyclists get paid a fair chunk of their wages in South African wine?
It is an incentive for sometimes, yes. Steve Cummings actually the one year went to our partner at that time and got wine for his brother's wedding, because he said he opted to, you know, to do the wine at the wedding, and then went to our wine partner and got that sorted for himself. So yes, some of them do, you know, sneaky things to try and get themselves sorted. But
well,
yeah.
I'm glad they enjoy it, as do you. And as I said earlier, we've had many glasses of wine together. Tour de France, Team Qhubeka wins the Tour de France. You've created history. What are you pouring? What's the varietal? What's the wine that is closest to Doug's heart?
Everything I can get my hands on. No, like, I mean, champagne is and MCC is something that is great to always have in celebration. But a good glass and a bottle of red is my passion. So that'll be my second choice after some good
7
bubbly.
bottles of Cap Classique. Well, we know L'Avenir can certainly deliver on the red wine as well, as they
Yes.
are with a really nice balanced rosé pinotage, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. And I might need to finish off once we've finished filming. Final one for you. I am treating this as a completely unsolicited interview for a role with the Team Qhubeka. Now, as much as my physique suggests cycling prowess, it's possibly not my strongest suit, and I'm not much good as a mechanic. I don't think I could really help you out as a driver, although I do have some basic schoolboy French. But from my one trip with you guys to France, I noticed that you didn't have a team sommelier. And while I'm certainly not a qualified sommelier, I wouldn't pretend to be, I do love my wine. Can I appoint myself just for a week or so as your honorary team sommelier?
Well, I think it goes back to the conversation around our chef, and so when he's preparing the meal, I mean, of course, there needs to be a pairing with the wine. So yes, you can. Cheers to that.
I look forward to it. Some lovely wine. Cheers to L'Avenir for getting behind a great South African team and supporting the work they in turn do with Qhubeka. And Doug, I congratulated you many times, but I'm enormously proud of what you've done. You've done South Africa proud, and in a tricky year, I know you're going to keep putting smiles on our faces, doing so with a glass of wine in hand, and continuing to support the cause that is Qhubeka, which is fantastic. So happy drinking, happy cycling. Here's to many yellow jerseys and many more great adventures.
Thank you very much, Dan.
So there we go. Doug Ryder, the team principal at Team Qhubeka, powered by Assos. They've got an exciting year ahead. Go and have a look online at Qhubeka and the work that they do. It is fabulous. And while you're doing it, pour yourself a glass of L'Avenir as well. Cheers.